Where did you learn magic?
Frozen 2 takes place in a fictional kingdom in Scandinavia, but the people who the movies are based off of are very much real. While the first movie didn't go into quite as much detail as the second does, the lengths that the filmmakers went to in order to get things right might really surprise you. If you haven't seen the movie yet, beware, there are some spoilers ahead.
Wow, Papa, that was epic!
When creating a story about a group of people, it's a pretty good idea to actually consult some members of that group, right? Well, that seems like a simple enough idea. It is definitely not always the case when it comes to Hollywood. They have quite the messy history of doing a bit of research and cobbling together something from another culture that is pretty good, but could definitely be better, at least according to the real-life people that the movies are based on. And they're pretty much experts on the subject of, well, themselves.
See? No harm done.
This is kind of what happened in the first Frozen movie. While the Kingdom of Ariandel is fiction, the inspiration for the design, look, and sound of the characters was based on a mixture of Scandinavian and other Nordic cultures. There's clearly some Swedish, Danish, and Norwegian stuff going on all over the place, from the accents to the costumes and more. While most of that is relatively harmless, there was one community who was used for inspiration in some of the design that didn't really appreciate not being consulted on the matter. And that is the indigenous Sami culture, located all over northern Scandinavia. In the first Frozen movie, the filmmakers borrowed quite a few Sami elements to build their world, from the opening song that was inspired by traditional yoke singing to the seemingly accurate clothing that Kristoff wears. The thing is, while the team for this movie did a lot of research about the culture they were borrowing from, they didn't actually consult anyone who actually belongs to the community. And while there were no sinister or ill intentions behind finding inspiration in this indigenous culture, the long history that our world has of taking from and then discarding indigenous people is a sensitive subject. For good reason. Or, thousands and thousands of good reasons. And also, if you're making a movie about a culture that you're clearly interested in, don't you want to get it as right as possible? It's just better for everyone involved. The world of movies becomes all the more richer and beautiful, and the people who belong in the community get to feel respected and heard. It's a win-win situation. The Sami culture plays an even bigger role in the second Frozen movie than it did in the first, and contributes to one of the heavier elements of the story. In Frozen 2, we discover that their grandfather, the old king of Arendelle, once built a dam for the Northuldra people, who are a fictional tribe of reindeer hunters based off of the Sami people. Their grandfather claimed that the dam was a peaceful offering, but it turns out that it was actually used to compromise the land and weaken their community, so it could be taken over. The two girls learned that their mother was actually a member of the Northuldra people, who saved their father Agnar during a battle. They also find out that this battle, which they had been raised to believe was started by the Northuldra, was actually instigated by their grandfather, when he executed their leader when the leader was unarmed and vulnerable. This story is familiar because it has happened time and time again all over the world. In the case of the Sami people, they have always lived in the far northern parts of Sweden, Norway, Finland, and even Russia. In the 15th and 16th centuries, Norwegian farmers moved north and started to colonize Sami territory, actions which would later be supported by the Norwegian government at the time. With this pressure from outside forces, the Sami went from hunting reindeer to farming them, which saw them become nomadic, roaming all across the north. This also became difficult as national borders were invented, and suddenly restricted where they could peacefully travel with their herd. Now, barred in by borders that hadn't previously existed and driven out by Norwegian settlers, the Sami community had to find a way to exist. The council worked with Disney to create a story that would authentically represent not only the look and sound of their culture, but also their historical experiences, and came out very happy with the final product. Not only does it pay respect to the history of the land in which the movie is set, even if it is a fictionalized version of the land, but it gives the Sami people more international recognition, which is important when it comes to preserving sacred traditions. There is even a version of the film that was released at the same time as the original, dubbed into the North Sami language, which is the first time that has ever happened. The community has never been able to take their children to a Hollywood movie spoken in their own language before, which is a huge moment for many families. While some might say that the first movie was fine and that doing the research is enough, there is literally nothing to lose by including the people whose story you are telling in the process of telling it. The Sami culture is rich and beautiful and deserves to be told the right way. And hey, we didn't know anything about it before we started researching this video, and we're really happy to have learned something new about this giant world we live in. Now, if you'll excuse us, we're gonna put a package of licorice down our shirts and head to the theater to see Frozen 2 again, with all this new history fresh in our minds, and because of Olaf, obviously. What an amazing story. What did you think of this video? Did the filmmakers make the right call? Or do you have a different opinion about it all? What other Disney movies do you think could have benefited from the same treatment? Let us know in the comments, and make sure to hit that subscribe button to keep up with all the latest from Screen Rant.